At the end of the half hour, Skippy Lowe.
Mamie Van Doren, the 3 M's. Universal gave it to you?
Yes, they gave me Mamie, from Mamie Eisenhower.
For Mamie Eisenhower.
Mm-hmm.
Real name is Joan?
Joan, and I was named for Joan Crawford.
Ah.
My mother loved Joan Crawford. And then they named me for the First Lady.
Uh-huh.
And Van Doren, I have no idea where that came from.
Universal went under contract for 5 years, was it? Or
Yes, I had a 7-year contract, and I lasted 5 years. I got married and had a baby, and then they dropped me.
South Dakota, is that where
I
you-
was originally, yeah, I was born in near Sioux Falls, South Dakota,
Uh-huh.
a little town called Rowena.
Uh-huh.
And they just celebrated their, I think their 100th centennial. They wanted me to come back, but I didn't.
Tell me about that, growing up there. You just go to little movies as a little
Yeah.
teenager?
I wasn't a teenager in South Dakota. I came out here when I was 8 years old during the war.
Really?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And but I remember my mother used to take me into Sioux Falls, which was the big city then, and I used to go to the Shirley Temple movies and things like that, you know. But I was very young. But I still remember the Clark Gable and the Carole Lombards, and my mother was an ardent movie fan.
Uh-huh. But who
Ardent, I should
really discovered Mamie Van Doren? Is it Howard Hughes?
Yes, Howard Hughes saw me as Miss Palm Springs and Miss 8 Ball, which was a year after Marilyn was. That's the Greater Los Angeles Press Club.
Right.
And he saw me in a bathing suit and signed me to a 5-movie deal at RKO Studios. And I was 15 at that time. So
15?
Yeah. He
You were
liked
Miss
them.
Palm Springs at 15?
Yes, he liked them very young. I was 16 when I was Miss Palm Springs.
You liked them very young. Did you like older men at that time, too?
Yes, I did. I really liked older men.
Did you?
I went with Jack Dempsey, who was like in his 50s, and
When you were 15?
no, I was 18 then.
18. You went with Jack Dempsey, the fighter.
Yeah. I think I was looking for a father. Well, I had a very handsome father, but I still looked for more of a fatherly husband or a boyfriend then.
What was the very first film that Howard Hughes put you in?
Was
remember?
His Kind of Woman with Jane Russell and Bob Mitchum.
Robert Mitchum and Jane Russell.
Yeah. In fact, in my book, I have a picture of the three of us
Yeah.
when I was a bit player. But I'm not in the movie. They cut me out of it except for one little shot.
Was it thrilling for you to be in that film that day when
Yes,
you were on the set?
I learned a lot. It was my first experience on the set and watching, and I was 3 months on the movie. And they had a beautiful, the whole stage was made to look like Macayo.
Right.
And it was quite fascinating to watch Jane Russell work and Mitchum, and I learned a lot from them.
How did she treat you on the set when you first arrived on the set at 15? Beautiful, Miss Palm Springs.
She always looked at me, but she wasn't very friendly.
She wasn't?
No, Jane was quite kind of cool. She did her thing, and unlike what I am when I worked on the set, I'm more friendly than she was. She, I don't know, she just wasn't real friendly. Bob Mitchum, on the other hand, was a little friendlier.
I want to get back to Marilyn Monroe. You know, you're the 3 M's. Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield, Mamie Van Doren. You're the last of the red-hot ladies in Hollywood.
What
do you think?
MA. It's really fun. And now there's Madonna, huh?
And now it's
and
Madonna.
MA. It's really weird how it's all MAs. Well, what was the
I
question?
can't put Madonna in the category with you 3 ladies. I
Well,
cannot
she's
do
more
it.
of a
She
rock
is-
and roller.
Yeah, yeah.
She's a more of a well, that the glamour era really focuses itself on MTV and the rock era right now.
Well, I don't consider
But the
Madonna
movie-
glamorous. I consider her a
Yeah,
real slut. That's what I consider. I do. I'm sorry. She's a slut. That's what she is, and that's what she projects, and that's what she is. But I really don't consider her as a glamour lady.
Well, I wasn't really a lady because
No, but you had that image.
I did.
though, Mamie.
I had an
You
image of doing pretty much what I wanted to do, as I
Right.
written in my book. But I was sort of a maverick, and in those days, I went with young guys when I was older.
Right.
I didn't go to bed with the guys that could get me ahead. I was on the casting couch, but whenever
Were
I
you
wanted.
on the casting couch?
Yes, but not because of a professional reason. It's because I liked the guy.
How did you handle that casting couch?
Well, if I didn't like somebody, I'd just say no, you know. But if I liked somebody, I'd say yes.
Uh-huh.
I was very much in tune with the sex world, and you know.
Was your
from
mother
15? You really.
Yeah. Was your mother there at all times when you were 15?
Yes,
beside
I
you?
lived with my mother and father, and my father knew exactly what was going on. But they're Swedes, and for some reason, I think the Swedish people are more outward with their sexual behavior.
Uh-huh.
And I just did whatever was natural with the way I felt.
Uh-huh.
And it never really was an unhealthy thing.
Universal. Let's get back to Universal. What was the hot movie there after Jane Russell's and Rock Hudson? I mean,
Oh, that was
Robin Mitchum.
RKO.
RKO.
That was
Let's go to Universal
Universal
now.
is when I got my contract.
You got a contract there.
And, of course, there was a lady called Luella Parsons who was trying to prevent me from getting a contract.
Luella
at
Parsons?
Any studios. I would have been at Paramount hadn't Luella squelched the deal. She was...
Wait, let's stop. Why would Luella do a thing like that?
Because she hated me. My manager was Jimmy McHugh, and
Right.
Jimmy McHugh was going with Luella, and Luella thought that I was having an affair with Jimmy. And it was just untrue. I never did. He was, you know, he helped me very much, but in the same way, it didn't help having a manager that was going with Luella Parsons.
Right.
And people were afraid of her, and she lowered the axe on me many times. And so she cut me out of Ado Annie in Oklahoma. I tested for that with Fred Zinnerman. I would have gotten the role hadn't she stopped that.
Really?
And I would have gotten my contract at Paramount if she hadn't stopped it.
She had a lot of power here, didn't she?
She had a lot of power, and how I got at Universal is just unbelievable. It's like she went to Europe to have some surgery done.
You caught
and
her.
I got in the back door, you know, and then all of a sudden I was out as the answer to Marilyn Monroe, and she was in Europe, but she was having a fit. And
Did
so,
she like Marilyn, though?
Yeah, she liked Marilyn. She always, and Hedda Hopper liked me. Hedda Hopper knew that Luella didn't like me, so she would always invite me to her parties and write nice things about me. But my studio never really followed up on the movies I should have gotten. They didn't know what to do with a glamorous young woman in those days.
Yeah. Had they set up your dates to go out in clubs?
Yes. The first date they set up with me was with Rock Hudson, and at that time, you know, the word was he was gay, and nobody wanted to talk about it in those days. And so I figured, well, I was really safe. So, but when we went out to the Golden
Do you
Globe
think
Awards,
it's good to talk about it now, Mame? They're bringing it all out. I don't know. I don't like it.
I think
I don't like these people saying, "Let's bring everybody out of the closet." You know, they're having a witch hunt out there, and I disagree.
You disagree? Well,
Yeah.
I disagree with you because I believe that when you're gay, you should be proud of you're gay. And if I was gay or bisexual, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
And it's the only way you're going to get the straights, the straight people to understand. Why would you hide something that you are, that God made you? Everyone is the way you are.
Yeah, but I don't think you have to advertise, and I don't think you have to advertise your sexual life. What you do...
Well, if you're straight, they talk about it. They talk about who you go to bed with.
No, it's not. It's not. It's a human life. Human life, Bill. I'm sorry to tell you. I don't
Well,
believe...
I've
always
had
been. I think whatever a person is sexually, if he desires, keep it quiet. Why advertise it?
But I don't see anything wrong with being just natural and
The
just
young
letting,
gays want everybody to be gay, and that I do not like, and I don't agree. They all want everyone to be gay. And they're having a witch hunt out there, you know?
Well, everybody's like revealing who they went to bed with, and it's like a big thing, and people like to know who is bisexual and who isn't. And
Does that really interest...
Well, it must sell magazines. I've always had to share my personal life with the public, because when you go into this business, into show business, you relinquish some of your rights as a citizen. They pay to go see you, and you can't have it both ways. You know, when you put yourself in the limelight, you've got to share some of your...
Not your sexual habits. You don't have to share. You don't have to tell everything. This is America, a free country.
Well, no, you
we
don't
all
have to.
rights when it comes to sexual problems. We don't have to tell the world we have to go to bed with a man or a woman or whatever we are. Or who
But I don't
we?
see anything that big a deal about sex.
Well, Americans are making it.
They're so prudish.
Yeah.
I mean, Americans are so behind time. It's just...
Was it that way in Hollywood when you were here in the 50s,
oh,
May?
God,
Huh? Was it really crazy
you know,
sexually? And come on, you've been to crazy parties.
I have been, and I've always wanted to speak up and say some things that, you know, I really wanted to talk about openly.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, like my book. What I did is I finally wrote a book.
You certainly did.
And I opened up and I told, you know, I didn't, you know, make myself a homogenized glamour woman. I said it the way it was. And I'm very proud of myself. I've never been in scandals. I've lived a pretty good life, and I'm very proud that I have prevailed over a lot of other women. I see them, and I know what they're going through, and I have come out pretty nice.
Mamie, you're a survivor.
I am a survivor
of the survivors.
So there, because of the way I am and the way I've survived, I believe that there's something a lot of good about it. So I've done something right.
You're saying playing the field.
Yeah.
My Story by Mamie Van Doren. What do you mean by playing the field? You've how many? You had a lot of men in this town. You've been out, not sexually, just been out with a lot of men.
I've been out with a lot of men. I haven't gone to bed with a lot of men.
That's what I mean.
I've turned them down. Some very well-known, like Warren Beatty, I've turned down many times. Warren and I had a relationship for 10 years over the period when, from 1961 to like 71.
Right.
And because I didn't go to bed with him, we kept our relationship. Because he was always trying, and it was a thing of power in wanting to control you.
You got Warren Beatty before Madonna did, didn't you, darling?
Well, I got him when he was younger, but I didn't want him. I really, you know.
You didn't want him?
No, he did not appeal to me because I knew he was just into conquering, and I didn't like.
You know something? I agree with you there.
He always, you know, it's sort of like a business with him. If I can get Mamie, then you know, maybe I would have gotten rid of him sooner. I don't know, but I liked Warren. He was very boyish. He used to come up to the house and run in the bedroom. We used to play gin rummy together and have dinner together at the house. But
Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen.
I knew him in New York before he came to Hollywood.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Tell me about him.
Steve McQueen was very sexy. I met him at the Whiskey Go-Go. And
out on the Strip.
Yeah, on the Strip. And he asked me to go to a party, which I did. And I found him very sexy. And he was married at the time, I knew, but I knew that he was running around. Everybody knew about he was going on the side. And so I saw Steve a period of about 6 months. And
who are some of the men that you, of all the men, who was the fondest? Who really got Mamie Van Doren's heart?
Well, my husband, Ray Anthony.
Ray Anthony you were married to.
Yes, and I have my son, Perry Anthony. And then I was involved with Bo Belinsky. I really liked Bo Belinsky.
Bo Belinsky,
yeah,
the baseball player.
He really was.
I understand he was a wild one.
Yeah.
Was he wild?
Yeah, he was
Come on,
wild.
tell me. But how wild was he, Mamie? I hear he was wild.
He was. I mean, I didn't think I could meet anybody wilder than I am. And in fact, when the book came out and I wrote about him, he called me from Hawaii and he says, Mamie, he said, because Dean Chance is friendly, and so he gave Bo my number, and he called, and it was on a Sunday afternoon. I was suntannning. My husband answered the phone, and I said, he's talking on the phone. He's not. And then I picked in. I says, who is it? And he says, I says, oh God, don't tell me he's going to sue me because of the book. So he was talking to him, and so then I get on the phone, and he says, hey, thanks a lot for going easy on me in the book, because I didn't say everything, you know. He says, that's a hell of a good book you wrote.
A lot of calls from a lot of people?
No, Bo was the only one. Then my manager, Bill Lowe, called me and says, you know, thanks for being so nice of talking about him. And
tell me about Marilyn Monroe.
But Johnny Carson wouldn't let me on the show.
He wouldn't let you?
No.
Why?
Well, it's because he had me bumped from the show the last time, and I talked about it openly about
What do you mean bumped?
Well, I was standing in the wings ready to
Waiting to go on.
And he never had me on.
He does that to a lot of people.
It was the rudest thing. I don't care.
Mamie
Johnny
Van Doren,
Carson.
you don't need Johnny Carson. Come on,
No,
let's face it.
I got Skippy Lowe.
Oh, well, forget about that. You don't need Johnny Carson, you know. But tell me about the time you went to get the award for Marilyn Monroe in Italy.
Oh, well, I was making a film in Rome, and Marilyn called and asked me if I would accept her award for The Princess and the Showgirl.
Right, with Olivia.
Yeah, in Taormina,
Lawrence
Sicily.
Olivia.
And so I said, of course I would. So I flew to Taormina and picked it up for her. And
I see a picture with you and Anna Magnani.
yeah, and Gina
My
Lollobrigida.
favorite, and Gina Lollobrigida.
Yeah.
Anna Magnani, great actress.
Yeah.
You met her. Tell me.
Oh, yeah.
How exciting it was.
She was quite cool with me, and so was Gina Lollobrigida. Gina was just always looking at me, and Anna was very cool, and she wasn't very talkative to anyone.
Was Gina really that big as on film? Is she really that big?
She's stocky. She has
Stocky.
the Italian body. Women.
Is that it?
Yeah.
She'll never drown.
Sophia Loren, on the other hand, I think she was more voluptuous, and but Gina had pretty face, and
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn was beautiful.
Do you think Marilyn was murdered, overdosed? Mamie Van Doren, you've been around Hollywood a long time.
I've walked on I've walked on that sidewalk on Hollywood Boulevard when I was 10 years old.
And you worked at Pantages Theater.
As an usherette.
Yeah. Tell me something. Marilyn, do you think she was murdered?
Yes.
You do?
I think so.
Why do you think?
Well, because of the Kennedy situation where she was involved with Jack and Bobby. I saw her just a few weeks before I found out she was dead, and
Right.
She was very distraught. I saw her at New York at the Russian Tea Room one afternoon.
On
She was-
57th Street.
She was drinking, and I was staying at the Salisbury Hotel across the street, and I came down, was having an early lunch because I was doing theater,
Right.
and an early dinner, I should say, and Marilyn was in there, and she was drinking straight vodka on the rocks, I remember, and she was telling me about trying to adopt a child in that time. She was very, and also she told me never to fall in love with anyone from the government, because when they blank you, they blank you. She, talking naturally about Jack, and I think at that time it was Bobby.
At that time.
She was.
Did you ever meet the Kennedys?
No, I could have. Judy Exner contacted me through Bo Belinsky and said that that was right after Marilyn had died. He contacted and wanted to know if I would go to, he was interested in meeting me. And I said I wasn't really interested in meeting him. I turned him down too. And Judy, was quite.
Do you still see Ray Anthony, though?
No,
You have a son by him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've tried to make well, make good with Ray after all these years, and he still holds a grudge against me for divorcing or whatever. I have no idea to this day why he will not speak to me, why he will not be friendly.
Really?
But he never remarried, and I always felt that he sort of like just really had a grudge. I can't get him to even. I've invited him down to the house, and it's too bad because we're here such a short time to be acting this way. He just
Clark Gable.
Gable, I really liked. I met him when I did a movie called Teacher's Pet.
Teacher's Pet with
saw
Doris
me-
Day.
Yes, he saw me at Warner Brothers when he was working in, and wanted me in the movie. And so he saw me and he got me written into the movie. And I would have been written in his life, I'm sure, if he hadn't been married at the time.
You
And
really?
Yeah, I was really crazy about him, and he liked me very much. Timing was
He liked
wrong.
blondes, didn't he?
Oh, he liked me. Oh, yeah,
Did he really?
yeah, he
You're
did.
saying that.
I was
you're
his
saying,
type.
Mamie, you're saying that like, he
was-
was a real man,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
he was in his 60s, and I was only 24, 23 at the time. But
But he made you feel like a woman.
it didn't matter how old he was. He just was so sexy.
Really?
And he was a man's man. He never was pretentious or worried about one side of his face. And, he shot the scenes with me early in the morning because as he progressed, he got tired. But he was, I work with Tony Curtis, who only must be photographed on one side. And I've gone through all that. And it's just so.
What picture with Tony Curtis was that?
I did a picture called The All-American. That was my
All-American,
first movie
right.
I did with,
That's
I
right.
had the lead with
It was
him.
a college picture, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did 2 pictures of Tony. I did another one called Forbidden. That was I was discovering.
You did a lot. You did High School Confidential.
With
You-
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yes, Jerry E. Lewis.
Yeah, and Girls Town with Paul Anka.
Paul, you did a lot of musicals,
Yes.
like rock and roll musicals.
I was the first.
Teenage.
I was the first girl who did rock and roll in the movies.
That's right. Madonna has not the one. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Doren.
Yeah.
I'm after Madonna today, so, you know,
Yeah.
go ahead. Maybe you have a fan club. Boy, are they. Who's doing this fan club of Mamie Van Doren?
Joe Doyle, and
Uh-huh.
he's been with me for 5 years. I've known him for 10, and he's very loyal.
You have a big fan club.
Yes, all over the world.
But I wonder why they did not get a star in Hollywood Boulevard yet, because you're real Hollywood. Come on, let's get into this, Mamie.
I don't know.
We
You
gotta-
brought it up.
I'm bringing it up. Yes, Mamie Van Doren, you should get a star on Hollywood Boulevard. They're giving stars to people who are not even show business, not
Yeah,
even
you-
Hollywood.
You'll have to ask the people that the Chamber of Commerce are the ones that make the votes. I
And
have
people
no
pay for
idea.
that. That's silly.
I don't know why. I wanted my star there. I paid my dues to have my star there. I believe I should definitely have it. And
Looking back, Mamie, any regrets in Hollywood? Any regrets of your life? Or would you do it the same way, or what?
I would have been smarter.
Like what?
Well, I wouldn't have married a couple of people. I've learned through that. And I would have made better moves in my career.
Who handled your career?
I did most of it.
You did?
I did most of my work. If you're lucky to have an agent that really cares and gets behind you,
Uh-huh.
you know, you've got it. And if you're lucky to be at the right place at the right time. I've always been outside of Hollywood
Right.
because I've never really cared to go to parties and mingle and do all
Never
the
did parties.
touching pee-pees with
Really?
people.
It would think Mamie Van Doren going out there, you know? No, but you
No,
never did.
I just never was that. I wasn't that professional enough that way. And that, I think, hindered my career somewhat because every time I did get a job, it was always if I went to a party, oh, Mamie, you'd be great for this.
Uh-huh.
But I never did.
Favorite movie you did? You have one?
Untamed Youth with Eddie Cochran.
Ah, Eddie Cochran.
Yeah.
Untamed Youth.
Untamed Youth. It was at Warner Brothers, and Howard Koch produced and directed it.
What makes you like that movie better?
Rock and roll. I got to.
Oh, you're in a rock and roll
Oh
lady?
God, it was the fun. I just love the music. It was just, and I was able to move. It was like 5 MTV videos in one movie, and the music was done by Eddie Cochran.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to ask you, what do you think of Madonna, 1990? Okay, come on, Mamie.
Well, I think she's cute. I think she's got a lot of talent. She's a hell of a good dancer.
Yep.
She's motivated by whatever she feels. She says what she wants to say, and she does pretty much what she wants to do. But she should just, you know, you can reach a pinnacle, but you know you always got to come back down. So she's better watch on who she's stepping on.
How many children do you have?
I have the one.
Just one?
I have
From
one
Ray Anthony.
Perry Anthony.
Perry
yeah.
Anthony. I like to introduce Perry.
He drove me up here today.
Perry drove you here?
Yeah.
I like to, where is he?
This
And
first
I
time he's
love
ever
him.
been
I
on
love
here.
him to come up here and just talk to me and say hello to you. Hello, Perry. What are you taking so time for? Just come on and join us.
Hi, honey.
Hi, Perry. Perry Anthony, Ray Anthony's son. Do you play trumpet? Just slap it in. That's it.
Can you get
Here,
it?
let me do it. Go ahead, May. Anyway, talk to me, Perry. Do you play trumpet?
I used to.
You do.
10 years.
10 years, really? And you live with your mother in Newport? Yeah, that's where you're living now, Newport Beach. What kind of a life in Newport you're living, May? It's a wonderful life.
Well, I work out at the club, so does Perry. And
You work out?
I pump iron. You got to see
Yeah,
the
let me
muscles in my
see.
legs.
Ah, great. Look
See
at
those?
that. You keep in shape, Perry. You keep in
Whoa,
shape.
God-given
Wow.
ones, God-given ones.
That's right. You keep in shape. So what do you do? Are you in the business at all?
I do computer installations.
Uh-huh.
I find people who are afraid of computers,
Uh-huh.
and I integrate their business needs.
I see. You must
We
be
never
proud of
think that I would end up with a son that loved computers.
computers. Well, you,
A computer nerd, you know.
yeah.
Well, I'm not a
He's a good
nerd.
son. No,
Newport. You were on the Rich and Famous just recently. I just saw you on
yeah.
Rich and Famous. You were
Yeah,
great out in
Robin
Newport.
Leach came down,
Rob-
and we really had fun.
Tell me about that. He just.
Well, we went on the yacht, and we drank champagne for 6 hours, and I got sort of semi-tipsy. And by the time he did the interview, I was so, you know, I was kind of Feeling no pain.
How's this book doing, playing the field? What do you think about your mother's book?
Oh, I'm proud of it.
Speaking up, talking about all the men and all the people and all the wonderful times in Hollywood. Growing up here in Hollywood, your dad's famous, your mother's famous. What do you think about this?
Oh, I think it should have been written. I really applaud it.
You don't mind people writing books about their lives. The sons don't mind it. They don't.
He doesn't. He grew up with me. You know, we've been on a long road together.
So he doesn't get upset that you've been to bed with Steve McQueen or anything like that, right?
No.
That's great. That's wonderful.
No.
You know who I really liked, Mame? The guy lives in the movie you did with. He used to be Rock Hudson's friend. He lives in Palm Springs. I can't think of his name right now. Anyway.
Cary Grant?
No.
No.
Tell me about Susan Cabot.
Well, Susan was in a contract with me at university.
Loved Susan Cabot.
And I liked Susan very much. We did, when they had a show called Inside UI,
Right.
The three of us, Barbara Rush, Susan Cabot, and myself, the three of us, all did a number, and we were all dressed out in black and sexy. And I talked to Susan, it's really funny, about four months before this terrible thing happened.
Her son killed
I was
her.
devastated. In fact, we were supposed to go to the gym together. We were working out.
Right.
And I never met her son, and I don't know anything about him,
Right.
but I do know that she'd talk about him quite often. And when it happened, I couldn't believe it. I saw on the front page of the paper.
The son is Christopher Jones's son.
Yes, that's what I
Nobody
heard.
knows that. That's Chris Jones, who was married to Susan Strasberg.
Yes.
That was her real son. He was going with Susan
Right.
Cabot.
A lot of people thought it was King Hussein.
Sains, yeah.
And it
no,
wasn't,
No,
no.
no, no.
Yeah.
But you know, Christopher Jones almost had it again. He was at the Sharon Tate's house.
Yes.
And he just left down to get some cigarettes at Turner's.
Yeah.
And when he returned, that's when the murder was all taken at that time.
Oh.
He hit it twice already, Christopher Jones.
Oh, he's
Remember
such a
that? He was a
good-looking
good
guy.
actor. Good actor.
Oh, yeah, I used to see him at the Whiskey Go-Go all the time. In fact, I remember I was sitting there one night and he came up behind me and asked me to dance.
Jimmy Dean, tell me.
Jimmy Dean, I wasn't Jimmy's type, really.
You weren't?
No, I met him with Susan Cabot when we were
Right.
at the Eddie Key's across the street from the new studio.
Right.
And
He was
came
shy,
in.
wasn't
yeah,
he?
he's working on Rebel Without a
Without
Cause.
Cause.
And he came over on a motorcycle, I remember. And I went for a motorcycle ride with him toward the end of the day. And we went up Mulholland Drive. We went around Coldwater Canyon. But, you know, we did kiss, and I do remember his nicotine breath. I do remember that. Cigarettes.
Nicotine. He loved cigarettes.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, and greasy, kind of dirty hair. I do remember all that. But the thing about it, I gave him my phone number, but he never called me.
Okay. So you've had some fond memories here in Hollywood.
Yeah, I had some fun ones. You know, I mean, I'm a very experienced woman.
Do you have the most, come on, could you share it with us?
What's that?
One of the hottest men in this town. Is
Even
there, is there?
still living?
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Come on, Mamie.
Outside of my husband.
Yeah.
Well.
Who was? Come on.
Who
in
was
Mamie's
who was the
then-
best in bed?
Yeah, why not?
Well, you just got telling me you didn't want to know about all those personal
Oh, I don't
things.
mind. No, true, I don't get. Well, I meant sexually. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
That's okay.
okay.
Go ahead.
I think Steve McQueen was really good.
Steve?
Yeah. Burt Reynolds was the worst.
Burt?
Yeah, he was really
What
bad.
made him the worst? Because he was just.
Well, he
a-
was